Hello, my name is Eleanor Roosevelt. Welcome to my home, Valkill. I have been asked today if I might answer some questions, and I'm very happy to do so. This is something I'm rather used to. I get a great deal of mail. In fact, when I was in the White House, I usually received something around 300,000 letters a year. So answering questions is something I'm very familiar with. So let me share some of the questions that I've received recently and tell you my answers. I keep hearing you referred to as Eleanor Roosevelt, but what was your maiden name? Roosevelt. My maiden name was Eleanor Roosevelt. I know, it might seem a bit confusing, but my father was Elliot Roosevelt, the brother of Theodore Roosevelt. Franklin came from the other branch of the Roosevelt family. We were fifth cousins once removed, so not very close bloodlines, but it did make monograms much easier for me. And when we got married, my Uncle Teddy gave me away. And after the ceremony, he said to Franklin, "Well, Franklin, there's nothing like keeping the name in the family." So that is my only last name. Mrs. Roosevelt, one thing I'm glad about today is that women can work after they are married. Was it hard for you not being able to work when you were married? Well, I'm not quite sure how to answer that. You see, in the 10 years that I was first married, I had 6 children, so it was rather busy work at that point. And in my years during the White House, I really gave regular press conferences. I wrote a daily newspaper column and a monthly magazine column, and I believe that I wrote something like 27 books and gave 75 speeches a year. So there was always a great deal of work to be done. Do you approve of gay marriage? Well, yes, absolutely. I always think the best marriages are the ones that have a good deal of merriment and joy and gaiety. So yes, I do approve of a gay marriage. Michelle Obama has been working to get healthier foods into school lunches. Do you have any ideas on what we can do to get children to eat healthier foods? Well, again, I'm not quite sure how I can answer that. Healthy foods? Do you mean like foods that are free from contamination and filth? That I absolutely approve of. You know, many of the great diseases of childhood, like cholera and dysentery, are caused by eating contaminated food. We should all be working to ensure that all children have clean, healthy food. So yes, absolutely, I approve of healthy, clean food. What was it like being First Lady at a time when the newspapers did not dig much into politicians' private lives? Well, I can't say that the press never delved into our private lives. Once I remember I was on an airplane going somewhere and I happened to fall asleep. And I only woke up because a photographer took a photograph of me sound asleep with my mouth open. A photographer from Life magazine. I told my secretary, remind me never to fall asleep on an airplane without wrapping myself in a large veil first. Any woman in public life, I always said, must have skin as thick as rhinoceros hide. Now, some states would like to ban huge sugary drinks. Do you think government should step in this way? Oh, well, this of course was not a major issue in my day. We were mostly just concerned that people have enough to drink, not so much how much there was to drink, but perhaps we can draw a parallel with prohibition, which you know was enacted in the early 1920s and rescinded by my husband. And When I was a young woman, I discovered that very frequently people would be coming to parties and imbibing rather freely, and there was this joy in flaunting the law. And I thought perhaps this law is not making us drink less, but is rather making hypocrites of us all. When a law starts to do that, perhaps it needs to be reconsidered. Why did you always dress so dumpy? Well, I know a good many people have said I never dressed well, and it's perfectly possible, but I never could find myself that interested in clothing. I was usually just as comfortable wearing a hairnet and riding pants as wearing a lovely evening dress to a state dinner. I discovered that if I found a dress that I really liked, I would buy it in 4 or 5 colors to make the decisions much easier. But I was named to the best dress list several years when I was in the White House, so perhaps I was not all that bad a dresser as that. In fact, that reminds me of another criticism I once had, which was that I never served good food in the White House, and that is perfectly possible as well. But you have to remember, we were there at a time when rationing was very important. And I thought the White House ought to live up to the rationing. As if we hadn't done it, how could we ask others to do it? We ate the Department of Agriculture's balanced diet, which was duller than dull. Now, I'm sure you have other questions for other First Ladies, so I hope you will keep an eye out for future episodes which will feature other First Ladies of the past. Thank you.